Hello guys, today I would like to be talking to you about something different. It's more like opinion from myself, okay? And that's why I switched to Blender uh, fully over the years, and I came from 3ds Max, and I started to study Blender in 2015, but I had no intentions to stick with Blender. It was just because there was this free 3D software out there, and I felt myself compelled to know at least the very basics of this software, because at that time 3ds Max was a big thing for me, and I was working fully on industry. And from 3ds Max I would probably be switching to Maya. That was actually my plan, to switch to Maya. And I tried Houdini at that time, and I really struggled with Houdini. There wasn't that many contents out there that's supposed to really give you a solid idea about how Houdini works in nodes. Scared me a little bit at that time. But the thing was, why a Blender just hooked me? Why Blender hooked me? And I couldn't leave. I didn't want to leave Blender. I want to dig deeper in understanding more. Was because of simplicity. You know, back in the days when Blender was version 2.6, I guess it was the one that I started, 2.7, something like that. Blender was what it is today, right? I've been seeing people talking about Vray beta for Blender now, and Blender wasn't at all what it is today, and Cycles wasn't what it is today. So at that time, for with 3ds Max, comparing both, okay, I still was kind of compelled to keep going on Blender, because even not finding the solutions that 3ds Max was giving me at that time in Blender, things that I thought that was very important, even though not finding that, Blender was giving me some feeling that I wasn't feeling in 3ds Max anymore, which was the working happy, you know. uh, the software seems more fluid, even with the whole limitations at that time. I wanted to be like playing around in Blender, and not wanted to be playing around in 3ds Max that much. And don't take me wrong, I used to love 3ds Max. It was the software that I fell in love at the very beginning when I started, okay? Because was my mind was didn't have any reference before or something, and probably the time that I started in 3ds Max, Blender was really bad. uh, but uh, but when I started Blender, what hooked me was the simplicity, you know, the simplicity, that viewport. It was so responsive, you know. All these things that people complain all the time about the viewport, that it wasn't ideal to be like splitting in different layouts. That for me sounds like an evolutionary thing compared with 3ds Max. That wasn't a bad thing for me. That was a very, very good thing for me. Some things that people used to complain at that time, for me was kind of something, oh my god, that software can do this, why 3ds Max can't? Why it seems all super stacked, you know, rigid, and Blender seems like you can play around, you can, you know, take that environment and transform that into something that works for you much better. and you could be doing that in 3ds Max as well, but not that much. Didn't have that many freedom, and Blender gives you exactly that freedom. You know, if you feel that you are becoming free to create, you know. Of course, I was using for spec, I was using Rail Clone for 3ds Max, using also Vray. It was my main rendering engine at that time, and using Vray with all the power that Vray gives you at that time, man, Vray was a beast in terms of settings, what you could tweak in Vray, and Cycles was so limited at that time. Uh, but still Cycles gives me the feeling of freedom that V-Ray didn't at that time, right? Cycles for heavier that was, for limited that was, it gives me a couple of things that V-Ray doesn't, and that hooks me because that looked like at that time that I was playing. I was a kid playing with something, and I was having fun easily. I didn't struggle, and it was so surprising to me how good Cycles was dealing with GPU, how good Cycles was. The only software that was compared with Cycles in terms of fun was Octane. At that time, I bought the first version of Octane. I bought it because I got so excited about how I was able to see everything on my viewport, you know, manipulating, playing around it. I bought Octane for 3ds Max, you know, just to learn that GPU had so many limitations that I wouldn't be able to use at that time for a real project. But anyway, Cycles gives me that feeling as well. The feeling of scene bumping, scene not displacement. Displacement was another thing that was very limited in Cycles at that time. But the combination of shaders, and we didn't have even principal shader at that time, right? But even though using a glossy shader, diffuse shader, those things combining in a very responsive node view, which wasn't in 3ds Max. 3ds Max node material based was so clunky and laggy, and it seems fine from the beginning, but then you start to work on that, it starts to laggy so much. No matter what was your video card at that time, it will be lagging, it will be kind of slowing you down. That's why lots of artists jump back to the old materials lot, which was fine for me before I know Blender. After I know Blender, after I start to play around with it and better, starting to get used to, maybe I'm just saying this because I got used to, but after I started to get used to and jump again to 3ds Max old shader style, it seems like backwards, you know what I mean? Even at that time. So people talk a lot about Blender limitations, about Blender, and I myself criticize Blender in my channel, right? Especially now I'm dealing with Houdini, I'm studying Houdini, I'm putting myself to learn Houdini because I figured this course. If you guys want, let me know. I will put the link in the description for you. And that was the only guy that it was like a real teacher of Houdini, and that's why I subscribed to his course for a year, and I'm not regretting because he comes from industry and he has a very good skills in learning you step by step, right? That's how Now I am motivated to learn Houdini, but that that took me again to this topic, and that's why I'm here. Okay, more I learn Houdini, and every time I have to go back to 3ds Max because a client sent a file and the file is in 3ds Max or Revit or something, and I have to play around with 3ds Max. And now playing with Houdini, I feel the same with with a different with an addition. Now I feel why I can really feel why I switch it to Blender, you know, and especially now at this time, because at that time I was having fun with Blender. Blender was giving me something that 3ds Max wasn't giving me, but Blender had tons of limitations, right? The particle system wasn't near close to forest back. Okay, I tried and make it works, but it was way more painful, not intuitive, right? Displacement didn't work well. So many other things. But man, with evolution, right? Maybe at that time it makes sense to for me to be questioning, or I'm not gonna use Blender for this, or I'm not gonna be using Blender for most of the case, just for a couple rendering, modeling, things like that, that maybe at the time because of those limitations. But nowadays, man, nowadays, honestly, Blender has evolved so much with all the limitations that we still criticize. Blender abandoned or stops to working on tools that should be refined and things like that. But man, even that. And by the way, all the softwares they do that, right? I'm studying Houdini, and I figured that Houdini also had abandoned or at least stuck it in some workflow for a long time until the workflow is it's visibly so painful. Then Houdini created another solution for that, or improve that workflow, you know, the same as Blender, right? 3ds Max also had so many crap on it that never was working on, and never, it seems that other developers forgetting about that, and community complaint. The same thing, the same shit happened with Blender, right? But man, they how Blender evolves over the years, how Blender evolves over the years. I mean, how fun, how easy, and how simple it is to get to the point using Blender. I can't see similar, right? I am studying Houdini, and I can tell Houdini is a fucking beast, complete motherfucker. It has options to do kind of everything, man, everything, right? But the main thing, which is materializing, texturing, lighting, right, modeling, all kind of shit, man, all kind of shit. Apart from what Houdini shines, which is probably all the simulation, everything that I still didn't get it into. And apart from that, man, everything seems like way more pleasant to work in Blender. And that's not because I'm newbie in Houdini, because I wasn't when I was using 3ds Max, and Blender hooked me right away. I started using Blender, I could see right away the simplicity and the pleasant that that software was giving me out of the box, right? With all the right click shit, you know, everything that's supposed to be there, supposed to be that way, was pissing me off. But even with that, there was something simple in the software that tells me like, oh, this is so good to work with, you know, this is so pleasant, right? And I still didn't feel that in Houdini, unfortunately. And I'm gonna get used to it. I'm gonna get used to it, but it doesn't it doesn't work like the same way that it worked with Blender at me, right? Houdini didn't hook me. It hooked me for the power of it, okay, for the options of it. But Houdini didn't hook me yet, but I will eventually catch up better. But it's just because it lacks that simplicity. It lacks that simplicity at the beginning. For what I'm seeing, it lacks that. And what I'm talking about is just as an example, that's something that is very important for me, which is shading and lighting, right? That's what I'm talking about. I will, for example, that's Houdini, right? We have a grid and we have this object here. I love that you can press here and press enter and you can manipulate your object here. You can't do that in Blender, in geometry nodes, as simple as it is now, right? But for example, if you want to add environment sky, add environment sky, right? Here in Houdini, if you hit render right now, it will render with mantra, and you will see what I'm talking about. Just for that simple object, it takes this amount of time to start it. I know that Houdini has different render engine now that I'm about to get into it, but I can see that more or less the same process of shading is for both. Okay, I don't know lighting, but the way the light works is, for example, it will be different, but I don't think it will hit me like Blender hit me years ago. For example, here I cast, I rendered this out, and that's great because Mantra doesn't give me everything black until I add a light. Okay, if I add a light here, let's add an area light, and then it will gives me this. Okay, and then I go here, press enter, and nothing happens because that's not my viewport. I have to split it up. You know, I split it up, left panel, and then I have to add another tab here called viewers, scene view, and then now I have my light here which I can manipulate, right? And it comes with this shape here, but I can go to my light settings and turn it on single side mode, right? And voila, I have my light here. Okay, I have my light. Let's have some, for example, bounce, because we do not have any bounces here, and I don't, maybe you guys will not see that much, but that where I look here, right? Those are the light settings. Where can I see my render settings? I have to go here and then to go to output, right? And inside the mantra node, I have the limitations, okay? And it is already giving me some bounces, like, because I can see here limits, diffuses 2, if I turn it 1, so there is no bounce. Okay, let's leave it on 2. That's because I did it already. This scene is not from scratch. I did this already. Okay, so that's my mantra. Okay, let me tell you, if I delete this light, it will back to how it was. Okay, and let me say I want to add environment sky. You see, everything works. You see, but look at those viewports, man. Uh, Look how it moves. Look how it moves. That's the limit. I can't go far beyond this. That's the limit. I can, of course, split this tier of put in the other monitor, in the other screen, right? But that just came here. If I want to add, for example, a camera, right? I have to go here and choose camera, okay? And then I add a camera. Now I add a camera. How I can see my camera? I have to go here and go to camera, just like 3ds Max, right? But as soon as I move it, I'm not in my camera anymore. So I have to go here, here and choose camera, right? And lock here into my camera, right? Similar to what you do, right? For Blender, similar to what you do. And then I have to go to my mantra and tell my mantra that it should render from my camera. All those steps, you may think, and you know, now it's rendered from my camera, but not, I have to refresh. Okay? And then mantra refreshes. Okay? That's okay. That's okay. That will be my workflow. That will be my thing, right? If I didn't know Blender and I didn't know how simple it is, right? Because, for example, just for you to know what I'm talking about, here I have Blender, right? I may get confused with the shortcuts because I was using the other software, right? And it will be okay. Now it's released because another thing, I was using Metra, and Metra makes your video card super slow. Man, look at that. Look at this. Okay, I want to add a grid here. I just place my 3D cursor where I want to add my grid. That's my grid, right? I scale, press S scale, you know, and then if I do not have a camera here, I can place a camera right here and jump to my camera right away, like here, okay, and play around with it, okay. I play around with my camera already. I want to get out of my camera, press 0, I get out, 0 again, I'm getting in, okay? And I want to render, I press render, and to be fair, let's not have the environment, because the environment is my default, but to be fair, let's go to a complete black world environment, which is this guy here. Black, pure black environment. Okay? And I will add a light. I simply add area light, right? Bring it up. That's my area light. I am in my camera, right? I don't want to see the grid. So I can turn this guy on, or I turn the grid here, the floor, right? All this, it's of course, it is in Houdini as well, right? It is in Houdini as well. But you see how easy it is for me to manipulate and see what is going on? That's the simplicity. It's not because I'm using to, because that's the way Houdini works, right? It is what it is. You have to have these two side panels, right? You have to have your viewport and you have to have your rendering tab. You can't have both, and that's the kind of simplicity that Blender hooks me. Okay, for example, I want to apply a material to this guy, right? The easiest way for me to apply a material to this guy, I have to go here to my material environment, right? And I have to delete everything here because that's how it is by default. Okay, that's how it is by default. So then I go to my material palette, and then I have my principal shader, right? I can't see here that much, so I have to squeeze, and you see how the viewport works when you squeeze. Here in Blender, man, everything is so fluent. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Everything seems so fluent. There is nothing that I can complain about this, man. This is so great, but maybe we are so used to it that we don't put that many value on it. How it is. This is super value. Look at it. And then I have to add my principal shader here, and maybe another shader. I will divide this by 3 materials, and then another shader. So where are my materials? Here. I have to go back to my mat, so my materials are here, right? So I may change the name, put middle, body, and base, right? Base, let's say, right? And then I have to go back. Now I have to go to my object, right? And then inside my object, let me say this is my guy, my tensometry shader ball, yes. Then I have to go here and apply material network, okay? Oh no, this has to be inside. So I'm coming here and I will apply my material. Oh, sorry. So if you type here, it doesn't go right away, so you have to press tab and then material. So you press material. You can see all those steps. You can see all those steps, right? And you can apply one material, and then you copy this material down. It doesn't came connected. You have to disconnect, connect it again, right? And bring it again. Then disconnect, right? Connect again, right? And let me call this body. You see, I'm naming again. Middle and base, right? So in this body, now here, I'm gonna apply, right, the material. So I'm gonna take the material here from material network, which is the network that I was showing before, and I will give the body material. So now I have a material in the body. Now I go in the middle and I go here and press the material. I'm taking the material, the principal shaders that I had created before. So now I'm going base and I'm taking base material. So but nothing is happening here. Why nothing is happening? Because I didn't define, right, which parts I will do applying the material. So I have to have groups here, and then I have to go inside this object and give it groups, right? So, and then you can control more your material, but that's not how I would do, because I'm used to do in Blender. So what I would do is I would select this element, right, press tab, go to material and press material, and then it will assign a material to this guy here, okay? And then I will press S again, select this guy, and maybe select this guy as well, press tab, my material will be saved here. I will apply a second material, right? Then I press S, go here, press tab and apply a third material. Okay, now my materials are applied by parts, and then I can go here in the first material. For example, let's go and grab the middle. Let's grab the middle. So now you can see my material is applied, and then I go here, apply in the middle, apply in the body. Okay, and now here I apply in the base. Okay, and then now I go back to my material. Look at that, I go back to my material, right? My material network. So here we go, my materials are here. Of course, if I am here in this level and I have my material here, I can press this guy and go right away to the material. That's good, right? That's good. But you see, there's a steps on it, but that's good. That's good. Not complaining about that. Then I can change it here, for example, my color, right? And this guy, I can change my color, and I can change all the settings on my material, right? And if I go back to mantra, it will be here. Okay, now I have my principal shader, right? And then let's say that I want to apply texture, okay, to surface texture, right? I go here, texture, right? I'll go here, texture, and then I apply this texture here to surface, and then I have to tell it's a base color, so it will apply this texture to a base color, which Matra is still figuring out, right? And I have to go to my material because I have it on gray. I will show you in the other material, not this one. Get out. I'm gonna show you in the body because it's easier. Okay, go to base color. Okay, so now I have my material here, right? And I can't play around with the UV coordinates. Just as Blender, I have to go here and tell UV coordinates, UV transform. Yeah, so I go here, and then now it becomes like this, and then I have to add a UV coordinates. No, get rid of this, okay? Coordinates, UV coordinates, and now we are talking about. So if I go here and I scale them, right, up, so now we can see what's going on, okay? And you see how slow it is because of mantra, right? Of course, I can, you know, type the number here, but you know how you can see, you see how it is. You see how many steps to add just this here. And what hooks me in Blender was this, right? I select the fucking object, I create 3 materials, right? One material, I name it, I don't know, eyes, and name this guy head, right? And name this guy pants, right? And if I go here to my material nodes, right, I change it from different materials. Let's add a red color, simple principal base node, which all the settings are here and here, but then I don't even touch here, right? I'm also touching here. Look at this, right? And then you go here You go to your guy, press render. You can see them on render, right? You have the eye applied to everything, but as soon as you go to your edit mode, right, and select anything, right? Let's select this guy and press head and assign. You assign the material to this. Okay, this guy you can also grab, grow, right? And assign, let's say, your pants, and that's it. That's it. You see? Assign, you take in edit mode and assign that. And now if you want to select the part that you have that object, you just select here or select here, or select pen, select here, select, deselect. You know what I mean? This for me, it's easy. It's easy. If you want to apply a texture, you press in principal shader and press Ctrl T, okay? And it brings me the mapping and texturing coordinates. And then you open it. And then you open your coordinates. And then you open your texture, right? Even whatever texture, open this texture, right? You have your wood here on these pants. And you can play around here with the coordinates all at once, easily or independently, right? You can see how simple is this, right? That's very simple, man. I don't need to name the texture and go to a material network, and then go back to an object level, to network, to assign that to that part of the body or something like that. No, it's not like this, right? Let's remove this guy, and let me tell you, if I want to apply, if I want to have, if I want, mantra is even rendering, man. Mantra is rendering. Let me stop this. Mantra is rendering and cycles have rendered that speed. Honestly, there is no render engine out there faster, in my opinion, than cycles. It's not Vray, it's not Octane, it's none of those are faster than cycles nowadays. Except maybe Redshift. Except for Redshift. Maybe. I'm saying maybe because I tried out Redshift in the past, but currently I didn't try it out, but I have a friend that has Redshift, and I can compare, and man, honestly, Cycle is super fast. Cycles is super fast, right? So I want to just create a simple sky environment here. How can I do that? I have to go back to my object level, right? Go back to my object level, and I have to add a light, which is skylight. As soon as I add it here, if I go and hit render in Mantra, it will render out. It will render out. You see, it's rendering, right? It's rendering. Okay, so I can, in this case, control. Let's unlock it. I can control, for some reason, I can control my sky here, right? And I have to wait until Mantra understand that. Man, this is exactly what I was running away from Vray in the past. That's the kind of workflow. And this is a simple object in the scene. That is a simple object in my scene, man. You know what that means? Why the background is not showing? Because you have to go here to your skylight and enable light, render light geometry. So it's, then you can see your sky, right? That's a simple parameter. But man, look at this. How I do not fall in love in Blender. If Blender is just like this, I have my world, man. I have my world here, right? And then I can go here in the nodes, or I can go here in my world and create it, okay? Create it from scratch, right? But I have it already from scratch because I had created before. The same thing you can do in the same thing you can do in Houdini, right? Normally Blender comes with a background. Normally Blender comes with this. So what you have then to go here and choose, as simple as that, a sky texture, and that's it, man. That's it. Let's bring this right here. That's it, right? The sky texture, it's maybe too strong, and then you reduce it. I normally reduce it to 2.5, and that's it, man. That's it. That's my sky, okay? And then I change it here. Look how fast it is, man. Look how fast it is. How I will not miss that, man. How I will not miss that. I'm gonna open a scene and show you what I'm talking about. I'm gonna open a scene and show you what I'm talking about. Where is that? Freeze test, bended Vray, clear surface, strong tiles. I did this scene just for the sake of this file. I think the scene is here, I guess. It's a scene with a massive scatter. Massive scatter. I can't see the scene here, man, sorry. But Pine tree is low, no, animate is low. HP is low, no. None of those. No. For date. Use grass 3. Easy 3, maybe. No, it's not this. It's not this one. Maybe it's here, so I don't think so, because I've been doing like crazy shit. Scatter system, maybe it's this one. No, but that works, okay? I'm gonna take this guy, this scatter system that I have created, right? And I will show you what I'm talking about, man. Look at this. You see how Mantra struggles to render that scene, right? If I turn this guy on, my viewport is gonna go crazy because all the geometry will be here in my viewport, right? And there are a bunch of trees, and a bunch of bushes, and a bunch of things, right? I may crash Blender now, but man, the point is, let me open again, because I'm seeing that in my viewport, and that's not That's not what I want. Okay, let me show you again. Scatter system again. And let's go intersect. We may want to have okay, that's good enough for us just to see what's going on. Okay, to see what's going on. Okay, that's the scene that I have here. Look at this amount of trees, right? Of course I have a bit of a laggy, but man, this is more than 100 meters of trees on my scene, on my running on my viewport. Okay, and of course I can go and choose proxy. That's a system that I had created. So if I hit it render, look, do you remember how long Mantra takes to render that simple geometry? Look at these, man. Look at these. This is cycles, man. This is cycles. Look at this. You see? You can't, honestly, you can't beat this, man. You can't beat this. If you choose to render this out, look at this. If you choose to render this out, look at this. Look at this. And let me know if that makes any sense. Look at that. That's the time that Mantra is taking to calculating that to show in the viewport. Look at this. Look at this. You know, I used this scatter system to render this animation, right? Look at that. And it was rendered so fast. So that's my point, man. Vray is coming to Blender. I know that. Back in the day, for me, that would be a big, huge deal. But nowadays, honestly, the way that Blender evolves, it just, for me, I don't see the point for me to use it, right? And for the other softwares like the Houdini one that I'm studying, right? For Houdini one, I think that Houdini has all the trophies in terms of how complete it is and what it can provide, right? And what it can provide in terms of simulation and all. But it's still, you know, the simplicity of Blender, it's not just because Blender is simple because it's worse or it's less complex. It's simple because it's simple. It's easier to deal with a couple things because it was coded to be easier, and that is a trophy for the Blender Foundation, for the developers, right? And the community that thinks on the artist. With all that it's lacking, it's funnier and it's much straightforward for 90% of the things that needs to get done. Okay, and that's why I love Blender. That's why I love Blender, and I will stick with it as my main software until I feel the same passion, the same excitement, and the same happiness using another software. Otherwise, any other software for me will be just to get to point A to point B if it's necessary or if I have to use it. That's my thing. And that's my thought today. Maybe I change my mind tomorrow. Maybe I play more with Houdini, and I decided that Houdini is the way to go, right? And I change it, right? That is nothing to do with Blender is free. If Blender was paid, I would probably be paying the same amount that I would pay for Maya, for Autodesk, for the most expensive software. I would be paying for Blender, and that's it. That's my thoughts, and that's why I switched it to Blender, and that's how I feel about having Blender as my main tool in my daily workflow. I hope you guys like it. This video is huge, but it's because I want to prove my point here, showing you my reasons. Those are my reasons, right? It doesn't mean that it's the right thing. It doesn't mean that it makes sense, but that's why I fell in love with Blender, right? And so many other things, but that you can't just comment all of that in one single video. So I hope you guys like it. If you like it, thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down. And if you like my channel, if you like sometimes to talk about those things in 3D environment, 3D world, just subscribe my channel and feel free to comment and disagree with me, and you know, we can talk and discuss things. And if you have some more ideas about Houdini, I love to listen, because that's the point that I'm newbie learning it, and I maybe be very disconnected to the reality while I'm doing this video. Maybe I fell in love with Houdini in a short period of time, but I just want to express my thoughts, how I feel today, and I hope you guys like it, and see you soon.